And a good morning to you. Late but on. Had a few things going on the board that wasn't real sure what it was, and it actually was nothing that was really a problem. So I apologize, but glad to be here with you. I don't know where the rain came from last night, but we got some rain, 2 showers that I know of, because I took the dog out about 9:30, I guess, and we had a little shower. And then when I left this morning, that was a different shower, I'm pretty sure. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's I guess it's my age. Is I like Monday night football doubleheaders because I could just about get through the first game. The games that start at 8:15, little trouble for me. I remember when I was growing up, when they first started Monday Night Football, it was 9 o'clock. It didn't come on, and they didn't kick off till 9 o'clock, which was way too hard for me to do. Good football all weekend long in most cases. Last night, that Washington and Bengals game, 38-33, the Commanders over the Bengals. And in the early game, I'm going to be honest with you, they couldn't anybody take care of the Buffalo Bills. They made the Jaguars look a little ridiculous. Of course, that's kind of just the way that it goes. But the Bills look like they're for real. We'll see how that holds up. If you missed stuff from last Thursday night, the Jets beat the Patriots 24-3. Aaron Rodgers went 27-35, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, the Patriots are going to be one of the bottom 5 bottom feeders this year. Steelers are 3-0, and nobody can figure out why. Justin Fields went 245, 1 touchdown, 25 of 32.
Because they have the best quarterback in the league. Wait a minute.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. Wait. Their defense, special teams, and running the football. So, wow. Really? Imagine that.
But their running game still wasn't but 70 yards. Leading rusher was 70 yards.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And you know why? Because Justin Fields is deadly 15 yards and in.
He went 25 of 32, 245 yards.
They just take care of the ball and move on down the field. And
now the surprising one, I ran into you yesterday, we talked about Panthers and Raiders. The Panthers beat the Raiders 36-22. It was a totally different-looking ball club. Andy Dalton went 26 of 37, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns. Hubbard, running back, went for 114. You get 100 yards on a running back, chances are you're going to win the ball game in the NFL. There's a pretty good chance if you protect the ball. The Panthers, the only thing I can say is I just hope they wake up a little bit. We talked about this before. I would have played Andy Dalton last year, let Bryce Young sit so he could learn and understand, because right now he may be one of the best processors of information, but he's running for his life because I don't think he trusts his offensive line enough to step up. I'm hearing the same thing about Caleb Williams up in Chicago. He doesn't have enough confidence in the line to do it. I think you have to learn, because the way that you play quarterback in the NFL is so different from college. You have to learn to trust and do some of the things that maybe you're not used to doing.
Yeah, I think the thing with Caleb Williams is I think he and Bryce Young are just 2 totally different people.
Yeah.
I think that's where the issue there is. One thing that we got to keep in mind, it was a fantastic win. The Panthers went from basically selling no more season tickets to everybody's excited again. But this is what I want you to keep in mind, okay? It was wonderful. It was much needed, especially after watching them in person the week before. But what I will tell you is it was a totally different offense that they were running. Therefore, what did the Raiders have to prepare for?
They had Bryce Young.
So before we jump on the bandwagon, and it's completely understandable why any and everyone that watches say, we got to go with this guy, he's the best. While I totally agree that these younger players need to have a time to sit down, because reflection and learning is so much more than going out and performing, especially at that level, because defenses are so different. But I didn't see any of those plays, down and distance plays called. The only thing that was consistent was when it was 3rd and 2, the Panthers were still throwing the football instead of after running it a play or two. That's what I saw in the game.
Let me ask you this,
and
because
I don't like that at all.
Because I'm a little confused, maybe not confused, but I feel a little more confident in an analysis of the Panthers, I think that knowing that Andy Dalton was the quarterback for the week, okay, I think they developed a different offensive plan, philosophy,
100%.
based on what he could do. I think the problem with Bryce Young right now is they can't find the right combination of things to kind of make him successful and build some confidence. You know, I heard Cowherd say yesterday with the Bears, with Williams, he said, you know, when I look at them, I can't figure out what they're trying to do. It's just like they're throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks. Some of these other quarterbacks that are younger, you can see where they're wanting to go with the offense. They've at least got a plan. And I think with those two players, they don't really have a plan yet. Now, I know you're going to tell me that they'll get, you know, now they got some tape on Andy Dalton. Well, Andy Dalton's been in the league forever.
But the offense
years.
he runs is not. So
yes,
that what
that's
they
correct.
will do. So what they will do. Another thing about Bryce is how many offensive coordinators he had in basically a
Oh,
year.
I know.
He's had 3 in 19 games.
Yep.
So you basically, 19 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, a lot of the same things that we're talking about on why people can't do what they can do, and, you know, he's not very tall and all that. All these things.
They're all valid points.
They are great. They're of great measure and have a lot of validity. The issue is he has had no consistency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like taking Michael Jordan, basically, and I'm not saying that Bryce Young is anywhere like. I'm just giving an example.
Mm-hmm.
Taking Michael Jordan and saying, okay, this game you're going to run the point. This game you're going to play the 5. This game you're going to play the 3. There's no fluidity and no continuity, right? And because he doesn't know how the pieces around him work. And basically what I'm saying is that's like having 3 coaches in, you know, in an NBA season with 3 different philosophies.
Now, I will say this, and this is why what I was saying about Bryce Young and I guess pocket awareness is the way you call it. Mm-hmm. The Panthers did spend some money on some offensive linemen, on some free agency offensive linemen.
That hasn't worked out.
They're not where they need to be, but it's better than it was. And it's
still bad. I watched it in person.
Oh, I know, yeah.
And I watched the individual positions and how they set and what they were doing. You know, one way to get linebackers, especially inside backers in the NFL, one way to keep them from getting quick drops is to get out of the gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make them line up to the line of scrimmage like John Harbaugh does his offense. Mm-hmm. Put a fullback in the game or a hybrid tight end and fake an isolation or a stretch play and come off of it. Standing back there, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense when the guy's, you know, basically 5'10". And if he's 5'10", I'd be shocked. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think he's shorter than that. But standing around guys that are 6'6", 6'7", standing in the pocket and expecting him to see through. You say, well, Drew Brees did it. Yeah, but, I mean, we're talking about a guy that got traded for Phillip Rivers.
Right.
Who to this day, there will be people that will fall on the sword and say that was a great trade. Look at how many Super Bowls did they win?
I think they won 2.
Yeah, how many did the Chargers win?
Right.
Okay, so whatever. And it's really hard. It's really hard right now. It's very exciting, but it's still very hard for me to say that the Panthers are on the right track because I believe the Raiders are that bad.
Well,
Their defense, Laney, is awful.
I'm not saying that the Panthers are on the right track. It's just that they have at least made them a watchable team because before this weekend, they were not a watchable
100%.
team.
And their defense was not on the field as much. Therefore, it was astronomically better, which it was already pretty good. Mm-hmm. But if you give up a quick score or 2, you've got to have an offense that complements that where you can at least get back on the board.
Right.
It's not been happening.
Right.
It happened the other day. But I don't like the 3rd and 2. We're going to throw it every time. Mm-hmm. For 2 games, I've watched that.
Were they in play action when they did it?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Just drop back in the gun and let her go.
Yeah.
Instead of running zone and all that stuff, when you got these ends and these tackles that run, 4.6s and 4.5s and 4.7 40s, the inside zone is just not a good play. And you do that out of the gun to try to freeze people, right? Look at Lamar. Look at the Ravens. Mm-hmm. Derrick Henry is a downhill runner. He has to run out of the eye. If you are hell bent on running the gun, put him in the pistol formation. Mm-hmm. But Derrick Henry is not a side to side runner. He has to go downhill.
Well, I think part of the reason that teams line up in the gun is they have an unrealistic view that the gun is going to buy them more time for the pass. In my opinion, it doesn't, because everybody else has already come to the same conclusion. You're going to pass. So, as you said, the linebackers don't have to step up. The linemen up front can lay their ears back. They're not looking for a run play. And you've basically taken away part of the offense that you can run. And now if you've got a buck stud offensive line that has no problem keeping people out, you might can do that. But if you're still struggling to get all the pieces working together, you need to keep all the options that you can so you make the defense play you honest.
And that's a great point. And I think in high school football and even college football, the gun is very well utilized and very well run, because defenses are all the emphasis in college and in most colleges and high school football, all high school, is put on offense, not on defense. People can talk about, well, I want to be a defensive-minded coach first. Hadn't seen one yet.
Right.
Hadn't seen one yet. And I'm not criticizing. I'm saying that's just the reality of it.
And
so it's not going to be built that way either.
And it's a different – we've talked about this before. In college football, there are some places that you'll have a better offensive line than you will on some other NFL teams. And the problem is you're not going to have any kind of defense you're going to see on a college level that's going to come close to what you see in the NFL. Some of those quarterbacks, like a Bryce Young, that has been successful because he had an offensive line that was really made up of almost NFL players. But now he doesn't even have that caliber of player in front of him, so it makes it harder.
Well, the defenses are faster.
Yeah.
And that negates a lot of the stuff.
Oh, I know.
And it doesn't diminish the fact of how good he or Caleb Williams are.
Right.
The issue is doing it now sometimes is not – when you plant seeds, you instantly don't get fruit. Sometimes you have to plant the seed, let Mother Nature water it. You go out and water it, have the right kind of soil there, and then let it start to, to sprout and start to flourish, and then the fruit comes. But that's what I'm saying, and the analogy that you make is great. What that equates to when you're talking about offenses, that means you got that water can be receivers you need, that soil can be offensive linemen that you need. There's still teams just like the Panthers that don't have all those pieces that can make that quarterback successful. Now, the other big surprise was the Giants over the Browns. And I'm not so sure which one was the bigger surprise, because I think the Browns are basically a dumpster fire currently. Now, the Giants, Daniel Jones came out there, 24-34, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns. So it was a little bit better. And here was the surprise, I think, with the Packers. The Packers beat the Titans. The Titans are 0-3, and Jordan Love is down, correct? Yeah, they're awful.
The Titans?
The Titans are terrible.
It's really bad.
Yeah, and Levis is going to be pretty good. He's again, we can go back to the coaching thing. I don't see – sometimes you need to change things just because you need to change. But I don't see, some of these hires being better than what they previously had. And I don't see – I just got some major questions on some things that I'm looking at. And – it'll play itself out, and that's fine. It keeps us engaged and curious and those kind of things. I'm not shocked with Daniel Jones because they were doing things with him that they had not done in previous games.
Correct.
He was coming out of the eye a little more.
Correct.
Under center, holding linebackers there, getting the over routes and the middle routes. The drops weren't as deep, by the inside backers, because the threat of something is always greater than the something. So when you're preparing for an offense and that quarterback is in the eye, your inside linebackers have to read either fullback or tailback, depending on which one you got.
Read through, yeah.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of pulling guards anymore. So I'm talking about pro football, right? Like the counter trays and the bucks and all those things, right? So buck sweep. So yeah, I think reading that deepest back for zone and zone stretch and even just inside isolation is incredibly important. And I think that's some of the things the Steelers did with Fields that makes him so dynamic. Is not that he's a great down the field thrower, But Laney, once he can get the snap, right, because that's some fumbles, but once he can get the snap, show the isolation, show the stretch play, and then roll or boot off of that, that puts people at a tremendous disadvantage because of spacing. Mm-hmm. So it actually achieves what the idea of being in the gun is supposed to do by putting him under center, where the linebackers have to, at the very least, run parallel with him and not attack the line of scrimmage. All right, and then once they see him boot, then they've got to re-rally and come back. There's a lot of dynamics that are at play with some of these athletic quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And what I'm finding is the principles that were similar that were given to Brady with Josh McDaniels and Bill, not Bill Belichick, but Bill, the other offensive coordinator is now the head coach at Boston College.
I can't.
But the older guy, Bill, whatever his name is, they had Brady under center and having him boot or stretch or even just set his feet, 8 to 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage once he's done all that. And then he can throw middle routes. One thing the Panthers did, too, that I've not seen them do in the previous game, and in going back and just looking at a couple of games, just going through it really fast, is they didn't run a lot of inside quick dives or quick, zone read inside where you just spin around, hand it off to Chuba, and he gets 3 or 4 yards. So there were a lot of things that were done that will be prepared against. Now it's how is it Canales, right?
Canales. Mm-hmm.
How he comes off of what Dalton did and how he's able to stretch a few things out. Make no mistake, these people, these guys that are offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators are incredibly intelligent. I don't dismiss any of them, even as bad a success as some of them had. I still don't dismiss how smart they are and how they are able to figure things out, because they never would have attained that level had they not done that.
Right.
But I'm hopeful that Carolina can sustain this. The issue is it's Andy Dalton. He is very, very stable. He is very, very experienced. And if we start, doing too much of what he can't do or incapable of doing, then we're going to get the same thing basically we're getting with Bryce. I think they're trying to do things that Bryce was not ready or he was incapable of completing because of
other pieces
of the puzzle.
I agree.
So I don't disagree that he should not have been set down. I think it should have been a year ago.
You're right.
Where he's not even off the bench yet.
Right.
And the fact that he didn't play any in preseason, that bothers me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and people say, well, Caleb Williams had a dominant preseason. He didn't play against one starting defense.
Right.
Now he is. Now you're seeing it.
Right.
This is why you can't plant the seed and expect to.
Well, I still say preseason. You do it like Belichick. Preseason is useless because you can't prepare like you prepare.
Right.
He uses the first 4 games as his preseason to work out the bugs and figure out what he's going to do.
And he was fine with that.
Yeah.
Look, it's where we are.
And I really think Canales will be a good coach for the Panthers, because I think he will be somebody that will actually leave his thoughts behind and say, okay, what do we need to do to find success with what we've got? That's how teams turn things around.
And players rally to that, because what it does, the smarter ones, especially the ones that have been there and a little bit wiser, say, wait a minute, if he's making us better as a team, that means individually I'm performing at a higher level because it's making the team better. Therefore, I have a better chance to get re-signed or another contract down the road. So there's a lot that goes into that.
Let me take a quick break, and then we'll come back in just a moment.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver, or visit mooneyinsurance.com. At Stifel Nicholas, we're committed to offering investors personalized investment guidance. We're a full-service organization with departments staffed with professionals that specialize in a wide range of investment opportunities, from the most conservative to the most aggressive. We strive to give each account, regardless of size, careful, individual attention. Call 4Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC and the New York Stock Exchange. And welcome back. I can make that go away. I'll actually fix that one day, I think. I will say this. I thought the game of the day, and maybe it was just because that was the only one I could get on my TV because everything else is blacked out, and I refuse to pay what they want for the NFL package. But the Eagles and the Saints.
What a game.
3-0 through 3 quarters.
God,
Eagles and the Saints, and I'll be honest with you, and most people had predicted that the Saints would be maybe the worst team in the league this year. The Panthers were coming in a close second. But the Eagles and the Saints was a great game. Absolute great game. The Vikings and the Texans, the Vikings seem to be the surprise team for right now in the NFC.
Yeah.
Even though C.J. Stroud was the best quarterback in that game, it doesn't matter. You put up 34 points, it makes a difference. Broncos beat the Bucks. I think some folks were a little bit surprised by that. Bo Nix. Yeah. But, the other thing for if you've got a quarterback like Bo Nix and you've got a coach like Sean Payton.
Yep.
Yeah, you can match those two up. I can assure you Sean will find something he can have some success with in Bo Nix, even though this is his first year in the NFL.
Yeah, he's had 5 years, in college football. His dad was a, high school coach. He played at Auburn, obviously played at Oregon.
Right.
Yeah, he's seen, West Coast, East Coast.
Sure.
He's got a lot of experience. He's got a lot of life experience. He's very mature. This is one of those things where the seed was planted a couple of years ago.
Right. The other game that was a little bit of a surprise, the undefeated Seahawks beat the Dolphins 24-3. Quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, Geno Smith, journeyman, been around everywhere. He went 26-34, 289 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. No picks. If you look down through here, you see very few interceptions. Quarterbacks are taking care of the ball.
So how do you look at – let me ask you this. How do you look at Geno and how they've built the team with Geno not around him?
Yes.
And then compare that to Miami.
Yes.
Okay, so the trade that I think needs to happen, and we talked about this OBJ a few years ago, if you'll remember. This is what I think needs to happen so the Panthers get a draft pick back. I think Bryce Young needs to be traded to the Rams. I think the Rams need to send Stafford immediately to Miami because Tua's probably say he's done. I certainly hope he's not, but, it's on him and whatever he decides to do, right? And I think that because Tua may or may not play again, that solves your quarterback problem there, which is what they need is a distributor, not a runner. They need somebody to stay on the field with the athletes they got.
Right.
Okay, and Stafford can.
Right.
He's tough, and he's not going to win another Super Bowl at L.A.
Right.
They did what they did. Now it's time to move on. All right, and then what the Dolphins would do is they would send a draft pick to the Panthers. That way the Panthers get one back. It may not be a first round.
Right.
But it could be a high second, and that's a fair trade. So you work out a three-way deal for that, okay? And then that would help everybody in every situation, all right? Because I really believe that the Canales it does a good job, but we know that Sean McVay does, right? And look what he did with the transition with Mayfield. Mayfield was a personal character, making sure I'm the best person I can be, which McVay helped.
Well, the biggest thing is he grew up.
Yes,
he developed some maturity.
It was never an athleticism for Baker
absolutely.
Mayfield because he's a fierce competitor.
Yep.
Now, how does he raise himself as a competitor? How does he raise himself as a person? That way he can complete things. There's balance. There's no imbalance. There's no immaturity, and you're seeing that with Tampa Bay. And I don't know. It's just I had looked at a few things and read a few things, and I just believe that that's one that just makes a lot of sense to me.
Here's the other one, and I've said it all along. I don't know how they're going to fix it, but the Ravens beat the Cowboys, even though the Cowboys got in a huge hole at 21-6 at halftime. But the Cowboys came back and scored 19 points in the fourth quarter, but it was too little too late. Dak Prescott, 28 of 51, 379 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dak Prescott is not built to throw the ball 50 times a game.
Well,
if you had to throw the ball 50 times a game, you can't win with Dak Prescott. His stats will show that.
Right. So previously to this start of this season, if you lined his stats up with Patrick Mahomes and didn't put a name beside it, you would say, well, that's Mahomes and then somebody else. It was Dak. This is the thing. Stats are very deceiving because a lot of times you can get a lot of yards when people are up big and just making sure they manage the game to win it and not letting you just run through it, but you got to throw your way down.
He's not built for comebacks.
And the insanity to me is paying people $55 and $60 million that have never and never will win a Super. I say never will. I hope they do.
No.
Gosh, but
I don't think so.
I just I don't understand that. This is. Where, number one, why? And number two, where does that benefit anybody, especially one paying it? That's insane.
Oh, I think it's out of control what salaries are in the NFL.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, they get paid that. The government gets half.
Yep.
And then they turn around and distribute. I don't know, man. I don't know.
The other thing that was key in this game, Dallas could not establish a running game. They had 51 yards total for the day, 51 yards. Baltimore, with Derrick Henry putting up 151 yards and Lamar Jackson putting another 80, but they had 274 rushing yards.
Yeah, but Lanny, Baltimore's defense
is
built
for
AFC North football, which is run the football. Well, it's supposed to be. Now it's kind of toilet bowl, but let's just call it like it is. But the inside linebacker for Baltimore, and their defensive line, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Run where are you gonna run it?
I know.
That's why you got to go 3 tight ends, man.
Yeah. The other two teams, it's kind of a little surprising. Well, I guess 3 teams. 49ers, 24-7 27. Rams beat the 49ers 27-24. Purdy still went 22 of 30, 292 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Their issue, they let the greatest piece, to me, they let the greatest piece go that they had, Steve Wilkes.
Yeah.
Now again, I'm not in the locker room. I just know that Wilkes has never lost a Super Bowl as a coordinator or head coach.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen the other guy lose a couple.
Right.
Okay. And sometimes by getting someone that you feel like is a guru that is better than what you got is not always the better answer, because in the end it is about player respect.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the ability to communicate and deliver the message, and it's about continuity. And I think they lost all 3 of those by making that change. There
Yep.
were a lot of players that Steve Wilkes made better people.
Yep.
And not even and let's just go beyond the players, people in the organization, because of who he is and the way he does things. A lot of times, the first thing that should have been said was, "I'm the head coach. We lost Super Bowl because it's my responsibility."
Right.
Not, well, I've got a little bit of different philosophy, and I'm up here, and they're just not here with me, and I don't know. It's the same dude I watched, blow a 20-some point lead in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter.
Right.
I don't know, by not running the football, trying to throw it, and be some kind of offensive prowess and genius.
Right.
And I don't know what went on in the back room. I don't know that.
Right.
All I know is what I see.
Well, and there's other players where Steve Wilkes has been that there's not been a locker room issue. So you wouldn't think it'd be there.
How can there be?
Yeah.
How can there be?
The other one, the surprise up in the NFC North, is also the Detroit Lions. And the Detroit Lions beat the Cardinals 20-13. I'm not buying Kyler Murray at this point. I'm still not sure. They added Marvin Harrison Jr., and but
luck.
But they haven't really come across with anything with him. But maybe that's still a learning thing. And then when you go down to final games for the weekend, Chiefs beat the Falcons, and then last night it was the Bills over the Jags, 47-10. That one was over early.
Yeah.
And then the Commanders beat the Bengals.
That one looked like it was over too. There was just grave differences, between the two. I think Burrow ended up with almost 3 or maybe a little more, but
324 and 3 touchdowns.
A lot of that was done late.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm saying stats are often skewed by opportunities that are given for that.
Yep.
If you're down by 5 touchdowns and all you're doing is slinging all over the park for the last 8 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
You're likely going to have a couple hundred yards passing, in the next 2 I say the next 2, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just don't – I'm not ever a big guy on stats, because I've coached kids – let's just take baseball, the game of all stats.
Right.
I've coached kids that, have had a 330 batting average, but when I had runners on second and third, they were hitting 067 for the year.
Right.
Or runners in scoring position. Man, you can kind of fit that square, that square peg in that round hole. A lot of times if you want to manipulate numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I just there's so many more things that go into the statistical side of things when it comes to winning championships, not individual games.
You got to look
championship.
Just like what you're doing, what you said, you've got to look at situations to where not only their overall numbers, but there's a lot of situational things where they don't perform the same. That makes a difference because you can't move forward.
Measurables, right.
College football, we'll touch on it just a bit before we got out here shortly. Clemson beat State 59-35. I was stunned. I'm just telling you, I was stunned. I thought the 16.5 point favorite that Clemson was, I thought that was the bookies trying to get the betting line to get people put on it. Mm-hmm. But Clemson played different this week, and I don't really know why. I talked to a guy yesterday that's a big Clemson fan. He's at every game, and he said that what it looks like is they were able to get, and we've said this before, able to get some things to get some confidence with the offense to get them going. I'll give you an example when I play golf and when you play golf. If I have my second shot, out of the woods every time. It's hard for me to get my game going and do anything. But if I'm where I can take my second shot and it's a reasonable shot, even though it may be short, I start to build some confidence. I think it's the same way here. And because it's a new game every week, you got to find something that they succeed at.
Yeah.
Got to find something they can move on. Texas rolled, as you would think. Arch Manning was 15 of 29, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, 51-3. Now, teams are still playing what I call tune-up games. Ole Miss did away with Georgia Southern, 52-13. Tennessee, Oklahoma, 25-15. Tennessee, the winner there. Missouri struggled with Vandy.
Yeah, Vandy's a little tougher to match up against with a lot of, they've had a couple of close games with bigger teams early on, and they're not by any means going to be have a stellar season. But the point is that for whatever reason, it's very hard to match up with them. And it took, I believe, 2 overtimes for Missouri to beat them.
Yep.
Now, Missouri's much better.
Yep.
They are dynamically better in every phase of the game. But when it comes to matchups, man, they do a good job of, fighting that. It's kind of like when Kentucky plays teams. They're hard to match up with.
Miami beat South Florida. Nobody's surprised there. Penn State over Kent State. The Michigan-Southern Cal game I thought was a really good game. I watched most of it. Michigan came out on top 27-24. The biggest thing that I came away from with Southern Cal is their defense is better than it has been. That's always been one of those things with Lincoln Riley. The defense never measured up and got to the same level as the offense, but I think he's straightening that out a little bit. Yeah. Utah, 22-19 over Oklahoma State.
Good game.
BYU upset and really handled K-State, number 13 K-State, 38-9. LSU and UCLA, 34-17, wasn't much of a game. Notre Dame over Miami of Ohio, coming in with no wins, but yet 28-3 was your final there. Louisville, undefeated, 31-19 over Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Iowa State over Arkansas State, 52-7. Texas A&M 26, Bowling Green 20.
That ain't good. We're continuing to see the unraveling too of Florida State.
Yes, yeah. In the ACC, Syracuse fell to Stanford. Stanford picked up their first ACC win.
Atlantic Coast Conference, Stanford.
Yeah,
let's go.
And Cal. James Madison hung 70 on Carolina. Some of the things that I've read on the boards, Mac actually offered to step down, but I think he'll see it to the end of the year. Then they'll make some changes.
He will, but this is the thing.
They can't find a defense or a defensive coordinator that works.
Again, you look at this and you say, well, they scored 50 and they had more yards than they did. That's not the point. The point is they had to score 50.
Yeah.
And it still wasn't enough.
Yep.
Laney, you can't take high school all-stars that play offense.
Yep.
They're offensive-minded only.
Yep.
With the exception of the ones that are going to play in the NFL.
That's right.
Which there's not many of those out there. And then let them come in for a year and see that they're just not going to work out at wide receiver, quarterback, or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, and then put them on the defensive side of the ball. Now, there's 2 that come to mind where that was done, and it worked out, for those kids. One is the quarterback from East Lincoln all those years ago that now plays inside linebacker for the Jets.
Schratt.
All right, and the other one's Caleb Farley, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Caleb didn't play defense his sophomore year in high school. He just played offense, right? I don't know, those are 2 ACC examples. One was at Carolina, which was Surratt, who went to be a quarterback, which as great and dynamic as he was in high school, it was not the fit for college football or for the NFL. He's doing what he's supposed to do. I thought he would play outside linebacker. Well, obviously being that fast and being able to do the things the way he adapted his game, he's moved to inside, which they've done that with a lot of outside backers moving inside where they don't have to be as big and burly. They can run a little more. And then with Caleb, making that transition to wide out and then to defensive back.
Right.
They're great moves.
Yeah.
Great moves. But the point is, that's just 2.
Yeah.
And the SEC, when they recruit somebody, they say, yeah, he was a great offensive player, but, man, he was a defensive guy, and this is what he does.
I give you
And you can't. There's no mistaking any of this.
example of a kid that I played with. He played at Mount Airy. His name's F.A. Martin, and F.A. lived in this area. One of his kids played when Juju was still coaching in middle school. F.A. was a 250-pound fullback from Mount Airy back in the day.
Oh, my God.
Okay,
That's incredible.
He punished
Oh,
people.
that's incredible.
Went to Duke. They made him a defensive tackle.
Yeah, that's
because
what you do.
that they didn't run that, but they saw the athleticism in him, what he could do, the quickness, the speed that they could move him to a defensive tackle. He had the size.
And that's a great point. What did we see with Elko going to Duke? What did he immediately do? He raised the bar defensively.
Yeah.
And Duke won a lot of games and was very relevant.
And Duke is still undefeated, 4-0, 45-17 over Middle Tennessee. Pittsburgh, are they for real? 73-17 over Youngstown State. And then here's another ACC surprise. SMU, the Mustangs beat TCU 66-42. Florida State picked up their first win this weekend, 14-9 over Cal, but it was ugly. Boston College beating Michigan State surprised me as well, 23-19.
That's where Bill he was the offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien. Yeah, he's the head coach there. And I'm not shocked that he's like a Big Ten kind of kind of coach, right? He just gives that persona. The ACC, all this is very concerning.
But at least there's a couple of teams that are somewhat respectable that haven't been. One of those matchups, this should be a marquee matchup, is Virginia Tech at Miami.
It's not.
This Friday. And not Miami's a 19-point favorite.
They're going to beat them by 50.
Virginia Tech, why can't they get it right?
Well, they had it right, and it's a lot of App State fans out there.
Oh, yeah, that's another one that's struggling. Will this be a game? You're a big Ole Miss fan.
Huge.
They're a 17.5-point favorite over Kentucky.
Yeah,
but Kentucky kind of slips up on some people,
not
too.
on Lane Kiffin. I really think that it'll be a 25 to 40-point game, 30-point game, because Kiffin could have hung 100 on Georgia Southern. He could have put 100 on them.
Yeah,
100.
I'm looking for some really, I guess, close, good games. I'm not seeing them. Southern Cal takes on Wisconsin. Southern Cal's a 15-point favorite. Wisconsin's kind of falling off.
I think
this may be one. Louisville and Notre Dame. Number 15 Louisville takes on number 16 Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a 6.5-point favorite.
That'll tell us a lot. Yeah,
that'll be a good game.
Yep.
Oklahoma, Auburn. Oklahoma is just a 2-point favorite against Auburn.
And are they at Auburn?
At Auburn.
Yeah. And Oklahoma, Venables. Gosh, his college game day stuff was great, man. He was really good.
Yeah. He's intense.
Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know if the combining of conferences has been in the best interest for college football. I think it has been for individual schools. But you really, really need to, everything expands and then it contracts.
Right.
It's the natural law of order. And so we're going to see things eventually start to contract again where there are specific conferences if they survive this. People say, well, college football is doing great. They're going to survive. Let me tell you something. If you don't get a process in place, all right, fans like to see winners. But what they like even more is they're more loyal than anything. They'll fall on the sword for their team.
Yeah.
And what they don't want to see is just going out and recruiting kids off another team to come in, because even though that looks great and feels great and sounds great, long term it's just like, well, really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who we're going to get. We just know we're going to be good. And what happens is the senses kind of become numb to that.
Well, the biggest thing with the portal that's happening where you bring kids in, you've seen it forever with basketball when they did one and done, because they can build no continuity.
Exactly.
They can't build an identity of who they are because it keeps changing pieces. Matt Hodge had a good quote here. He said, "I think if Wilkes was hired in Carolina, we wouldn't be in this situation.
Agreed.
I think it would have helped."
Agreed.
Link comment, worst stat ever is time of possession.
Yeah, if you're not a running team, Link
Yeah.
is right. Link is right.
Matt said
that's a
Tennessee
good point.
may be legit this year. Just hope in the playoffs there isn't a drastic change from 1 seed to the 12 seed.
I think Tennessee will be there. I think that's a great. Who said that, Matt?
Matt.
Hodge.
Yep.
Oh, good dude. Yeah.
Richie, good morning.
Good dude.
Colorado State game was crazy. Yeah.
It always is,
Yeah.
and that's why they got Neon Dion out there. It keeps everybody.
But
engaged.
you know what?
What are they gonna say next?
When his son goes to the NFL, what will they be? Because right now he's kind of it. That's all they got.
Oh, and Travis Hunter, he is. I'm telling you, I don't disagree with Dion that he is electrifying.
The other quote from my Clemson fan I told you about was State. He said, "What's going to happen? State's got a pretty good quarterback, but he said, I don't think they can keep him after this year because he's gotten too good. He'll be going somewhere else." Arkansas, Texas A&M, that one's in Arlington. The Raging Cajuns travel to Wake Forest. Liberty at App State. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think that 3.5 line for Liberty, I don't think that's telling the truth. I think they beat them. I think they beat App. And it could be the writing on the wall for Sean Clark.
Anytime you step up from one division to the next and you make that jump and you have the success that you had in the lower division and you try to make yourself better, there's nothing wrong with that.
How much did it hurt when Drinkwitz only stayed for a year?
I don't think any. I think that was a good thing for App because he's not –
he wasn't built for the long haul at App.
He's built
Fair.
for where he is because of the personality he has. And
Yep.
It's not. I just I really think that they had their head coach and they let him go years ago.
Yeah.
And that was
Sean Elliott.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Because he you talk to Matt, and I haven't talked to Matt in years, Eisenhower.
Matt loved him.
I keep up with him. But one of Matt's best friends, John Holt, who I coached at Irwin. I coached both of them. You know, that's what they talk about, the intensity, the focus, and knowing that those 5-6 guys up front are what make the difference for the entire team. It sets the tempo for the offense. It sets the mindset for the defense, and it makes the special teams dynamic. Excuse me. And it is what it is. And, you know, all this stuff about get back here and do this and do that and get in the gun and show all these plays and this and that. You could do that with Armani because people didn't know how to stop it.
Right.
You know, even Michigan, as fast as they were defensively, had no answer for any of that. Plus, it was a snowball, and it was still blocking a field goal to win the game. So as well as that played, they didn't blow Michigan out. They just traded punches with them and hung in there till the end until one of them made a mistake. And it happened to be App created that mistake for Michigan.
Right.
It was a self-imposed.
That's right.
You know, will that went and did that. But the point of Elliott is, let me tell you something. I've sat in a coaching clinic and watched that guy sitting two seats down from me and then getting up and speaking. I'm going to tell you what, Lanny.
Yep.
You look in somebody's eyes and you know immediately whether they're full of crap or if that dude is on point.
Yeah. No,
and
I agree.
he will come back to App and he will fix all of this.
I don't know that he will.
And it'll take.
I mean, I'm not sure that he will come back
the
to App.
alumni. I can tell you they want to win so bad, and I don't know this, but I feel confident saying it. Okay, I don't know. You could ask every App alum to give $50 or $100, and millions of dollars would come in if they could get Sean Elliott back.
Yeah. Link makes a great point. Matt says Hunter is Dion made over. And Richie, I think you're talking about Mac Brown.
He's good,
Richie
man.
says, I need a retirement announcement. I think that's what he's talking about. He's talking about Mac Brown. And then here's another point before we get out of here. Link said, and this is what you're talking about. Link said the portal has really hurt teams like App because they get a great first-year player, then they go somewhere else for the money or opportunity.
But Saban, you know, Kirby, all the coaches that are at that highest level told you it's only going to benefit us, not college football.
Right.
I'm going to be able to get any player I want at any time I want
Well,
because of what I got here.
Yeah, but the other thing that you have to do, and I'm going to give you a scenario back to March Madness. The teams that really are successful are the teams that are playing with 3- and 4-year guys that have been on that team, and that chemistry has made it. I think that level, the Group 5 level of teams, need to stop going after this kid that they think is a star, 4- or 5-star player, and go after the kid that they can mold that will stay with them. You know what I'm saying?
Dabo.
He may get there. But not when he's losing 19 players in the portal. That's what hurt him. But I think that some of those changes, if they'll change that just a little bit on the portal thing, I think it'll help. But you're exactly right, Link. It hurts the teams that bring in these guys. And a lot of them, you know this, a lot of them, these kids will go to an app or something, and we've seen guys in the NFL like Josh Allen and that went to a smaller school because nobody believed in him. Nobody gave him an opportunity.
Yeah, he went to Wyoming because people said he was too big and he had a great arm, but he wasn't accurate.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him, and they're saying these things during the draft.
Oh,
well,
I know.
we just don't know how he's going to work out because he's got a really strong arm. He can throw the ball, 80, 90 yards, but
the
it's
measurables they
but
didn't
it's
think
just
was
not
there.
accurate.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, 3 things. Number one, he throws an 8-yard stop to somebody or a hitch route.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna throw it through him. So the guys in the NFL can catch the ball.
Sure.
Accuracy has more to do with the hands that are grabbing the ball thrown than it does where the quarterback puts it. Okay,
Yeah.
That's the difference because we can talk all day long, and I say we, you and I, anybody else, talk about, well, this quarterback does this and he can't do that and he does this and this. Let me tell you something. It all has to do with continuity. It doesn't have to be, the one thing that I can't stand to hear every year, this kid is so fast in the pocket. He can run and he can do, and then we see the shit that we're seeing in the NFL right now with the fast ones.
Right.
So what they do with Fields? That's not a miss. What it is a reallocation of matching ability with coaching style.
Well,
that's not a miss.
And that's where, we've said this all the time. As a coach, as a staff, as an ownership group, when you get players in and you figured out that's not exactly what we were running, you better find something that fits them because that kid's going to be there. You got to find a way that made things work, and that's where they can't quite figure it out.
So you ask, say we talk about these things. Which one would you rather have? An athletic, dynamic kid that never wants to lift weights, is always hurt, can't go in the weight room, wants to lay on a training table, all right? Or do you want that kid that's got half the ability but 10 times the work ethic and is dependable?
That's the kid I want.
Who do you want?
That's the kid I want.
Okay, so right now, everything is put on. Did you see how fast he was?
The stats.
Did you see
the
what
measurables.
he could do?
Yeah.
Did you see this and that? But the reason that's not realized is because when it counts, they will let you down.
I'll tell you,
it's a character issue.
And I'll tell you the other thing. When you talk about those two different kids right there, the kid that spends the time in training is also more than likely going to be more coachable than the kid
invested.
That's just an athlete because they think they've got all the answers.
Right.
They've got the answers.
Look how I can move. Look how I can do this.
Yeah.
So I can get there.
Yeah.
Lanny, is the whole reason North Duplin beat Reidsville in the state championship 2 years ago.
Right.
They didn't have anybody to match Reidsville's athleticism. They had, it's probably 30-1 over there.
But
right?
they had better team chemistry.
You know what they did? They took the athleticism and said, hey, we're going to make sure that you're lined up on this side where we're heavy, and we're going to mash you. And at 14, 15 years old, when you got these 16, 17, 18-year-old men coming at you, eventually you're going to break.
Yeah.
Athleticism is tremendous. It is a gift from God. You try to do your best to enhance it.
Yep.
But the most important thing to enhance while owning that is your dependability and your character and your trustworthiness.
Right.
That's why the Navy SEALs always go after the most dependable. They say, well, you might be able to save my life, but their thing is, can I trust you with my money and my wife?
Yeah.
That is what they talk about.
You're right.
That's the greatest team in the world is the SEAL team. So, having said that, why would you build your team any differently? Why? They're the most successful. It's the most successful team and organization in the world. Why would you do it any differently? And the answer is because, number one, you don't know.
Yep.
Number two, you don't care. Or number three, you don't get.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got to always be willing to learn. That's the biggest thing.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason when people have more life experience you do and are older and been through it, that you should not be listening to react. You should be listening to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And I don't see a lot of that in the NFL.
Well, there's the thing with any athlete in any sport, there has to be more substance and depth to who you are and what you do than just those measurables that you can display. Because you got to have both of them. You got to have both of them or it doesn't work. You in here Thursday?
Yeah. So I'm building a position. Let's just say it's the quarterback. Does anybody offhand come to mind? If you say, hey, man, I trust you in my life, but can I trust you with my money and my wife?
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, not saying any names, but what does that mean? And if that's the person that you are having everything and depending everything on and paying all this money to, you should be able to answer all three yes to those.
Yep, that's right.
And when you can't, you got a problem.
Mm-mm.
So you put your money where your talent is, but not where your dependability is, and that's a problem. That's a big problem.
A lot of times that's ownership more than coaches.
It's a wow
I think.
factor, man.
Yeah. All right, guys. See you Thursday. Have a good week.